I want you to picture a scene that I think is going to feel, well, deeply familiar to anyone who's ever owned a house or rented a flat or just, tried to live in the physical world.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's January. You're in England. And if you know anything about a British winter, you know it's not just cold. It's that damp, gray sort of penetrating cold that just ignores layers.
It's the kind of cold that makes the radiator the most important object in your entire life.
Exactly. So you're sitting in your front room, you're expecting to be comfortable, and you just realize something is wrong. The whole atmosphere is shifting.
Uh-oh.
The central heating, the absolute beating heart of the home, it's failed to come on. The temperature is actively dropping.
Right, that is a primal moment of panic. The modern cave has lost its fire.
So you do the logical thing. You go to the wall-mounted thermostat to find out what's going on, and the display is blank. Well, almost blank. It's flashing this tiny, insistent little icon, empty batteries.
Which, logically, that should be a relief, right? It's not a broken boiler. It's not a burst pipe.
No.
It is the simplest maintenance task you can imagine. You swap two AA batteries and, civilization is restored.
That is the theory. But today, we are doing a deep dive into a narrative that's titled A Cascade of Repairs. And what we're going to discover is that in a real home, there is no such thing as an isolated task. We're going to see how a 2-minute battery swap just spirals into this saga involving World War II history, structural carpentry, and the complex logistics of washing up.
This is what I love about the source material. It reads like a domestic comedy, but if you look closer, it's actually a case study in systems thinking.
Right.
It shows us that a house isn't just a box we live in. It's this tightly coupled network of dependencies. You pull one thread, the thermostat, and the whole fabric starts to, unravel.
So let's unpack this disaster. The mission is clear. Replace 2 AA batteries. The narrator stands before the thermostat. Step 1, remove the battery cover. And immediately we hit a hard stop.
The first blockade. The battery cover just will not slide off.
And it's not jammed. It's a layout problem. The narrator realizes that someone, at some point in the house's past, installed a shelf directly underneath the thermostat unit.
This is a classic example of what you might call legacy infrastructure debt. You see this in software all the time, but here it is on a living room wall.
A previous decision.
Exactly. A previous decision putting up that shelf has physically blocked the maintenance path for a critical system.
And you might think, okay, fine, just clear the shelf and take it down. But looking at the source, this isn't a shelf you just, sweep clear with your arm. We need to talk about what was on it.
Because the emotional stakes just went through the roof.
They really did.
Right. If it were just junk mail or old paperbacks, you'd just toss them on the floor. But the source specifies this shelf is a display of the narrator's father's World War II memorabilia.
We are talking about Army photos, cap badges, regimental mugs, and specifically a POW tag.
A prisoner of war tag.
Yep.
That detail just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it? You are freezing, you are frustrated, but you are suddenly handling objects of immense historical and personal weight.
You can't rush this.
You can't. Yeah. You have to treat these items with absolute reverence. So the 2-minute fix has suddenly morphed into this delicate museum curation project.
It absolutely has. So you have to dismantle the display to get to the thermostat. But here's the physics problem. You take the shelf off the wall, where do you put it? You can't just float it in midair.
You need a staging area.
You need a staging area. And this is what triggers the next domino in the cascade. To create that area, the narrator looks at the furniture in the room. They decide to move the dining room table to use as a temporary surface.
Makes sense. It's a flat surface. It's nearby.
But this is where we hit the clutter tax. The source mentions that the table isn't empty. It has accumulated papers, pens, and so forth.
Which is just a universal truth of horizontal surfaces, isn't it? They accrue entropy. Before you can use the tool, the table, you have to service the tool. You have to clear the junk.
So the narrator clears the papers, they grab the table to slide it out of the way, and it won't move. It's stuck.
And this is where the specific engineering of the furniture becomes really crucial. The source identifies it as a gate leg table.
I love that we are getting into furniture taxonomy here.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who might not be picturing it, can you walk us through the mechanics of a gate leg table? Why is this design so relevant here?
Well, a gate leg table is a brilliant, if a bit complex, space-saving design.
Right.
You have a narrow fixed center section and then 2 large flaps or leaves that hang down.
Okay.
And when you want a full table, you lift a leaf and you swing out a hinged leg like a gate to support it.
It's basically a table transformer.
Exactly. But that means you have moving parts. You have hinges, pivots, gravities working against you. In this story, one leaf is down against the wall and one is up. So the center of gravity is all weird.
So the narrator is wrestling this awkward wooden beast, dragging it to the center of the room.
Right. They finally get it moved. They turn it on its side to see what caused the snag. And this is the plot twist. This is where the mission creates a side quest.
A completely new problem.
The narrator looks at the underbelly of the table and realizes the heating is now a secondary problem. The table is broken.
The source gets surprisingly technical here. It describes a failure of the mortise and tenon joint. Now, I know that's a classic woodworking term, but what does that actually mean for the table?
It's one of the oldest and strongest joints in history. You have a tenon, think of it as a square peg or a tongue of wood that fits precisely into a mortise, which is the square hole cut to receive it.
Focus fit.
It should be a permanent bond. But the source says the tenon had come completely out.
So the leg was effectively just flapping in the breeze.
Pretty much. And there's a really telling detail about dust. The source says the narrator ran a duster over the parts because they had acquired quite a bit of dust.
That is the smoking gun, isn't it? That dust proves this didn't just happen.
It's what we call deferred maintenance. That leg has likely been broken for years. But because the table was pushed against the wall was basically doing the job of the joint.
The breakdown was hidden.
It was hidden until the narrator tried to move it.
This is the moment I find most interesting. Psychologically. You're cold. You just want to turn the heat on. The rational brain says, push the leg back in, prop the table up, fix the thermostat, deal with the carpentry in the summer.
But the narrator doesn't do that.
No. They stop the entire heating mission to fix the table.
Why?
Is it procrastination? Or is it something else?
I think it's the realization of the critical path. They know that if they put that table back broken, inertia will take over, and it will just stay broken for another decade.
Right.
The tools are out, the table is inverted. The cost of fixing it now is lower than the mental cost of knowing it's broken.
So we enter the furniture repair chapter. The source details the process. Wood glue is applied to the tenon. And then the narrator uses a very specific tool, a rubber mallet.
I appreciate the specificity. You don't use a metal hammer on fine joinery. You'd crush the wood fibers. The rubber mallet lets you apply force to seat the joint without marring the surface. It implies the narrator actually knows what they're doing.
And they don't just rack it in. The source says they used the mallet to ensure all the other parts of the gate leg were square.
Square. It's such a satisfying concept in this context. It means true. It means 90 degrees. It means order. In the middle of a chaotic morning, there is something deeply soothing about forcing a piece of geometry back into alignment.
But here's the catch. You can't just flip the table back over straight away.
No. Glue physics applies. It needs to set.
So the table is left on its side, like a patient in a hospital bed. The narrator leaves the side quest and returns to the main storyline, the shelf.
The table is out of the way, the shelf comes off the wall, and the narrator is now holding these historical mugs, the Somerset Light Infantry, and South Staffordshire mugs.
And this is where the cascade hits the next snag. They look at the mugs, and they're filthy.
Years of sitting on a display shelf, the dust has just settled right into the glaze.
And you can't put dirty mugs back on a freshly dusted shelf. It's a violation of the code.
It is. Once you see the dirt, you own the dirt. You have to clean it.
So we move from the living room to the kitchen. We have gone from electrical repair to carpentry and now to dishwashing.
And we hit blockade number 3, the washing up hierarchy.
I laughed out loud at this part because it's so relatable. The narrator wants to wash the special mugs, but the sink is not empty.
It never is. The source explicitly states the washing up bowl contained the dirty dishes from the midday meal.
So we have a bottleneck. You cannot process the high priority items, the mugs, until you clear the low priority items.
The lunch plates.
The lunch plates. It's a strict dependency chain.
Yeah.
You literally cannot fix the thermostat until you have washed a lasagna dish or whatever was for lunch.
Let's just pause and trace this lineage for a second. To change a battery.
We have to move a shelf.
To move a shelf, we have to move a table.
To move the table, we have to glue a joint.
To clear the shelf, we have to wash mugs.
To wash mugs, we have to wash the lunch dishes. It is a Rube Goldberg machine of household chores.
It really is.
But the narrator commits. They wash the lunch dishes, they clear the bowl, and then they start on the historical items. And there's one more specific item mentioned here, an Arnhem Anniversary beer glass.
That is a heavy reference, the Battle of Arnhem, a massive, tragic airborne operation.
It creates a really striking image, doesn't it? You are standing at a kitchen sink, your hands in warm, soapy water, carefully scrubbing a glass that commemorates a literal war.
While your own personal battle is just trying to get the central heating to work before your toes freeze.
It grounds the story. It reminds us that these things blocking our way aren't just obstacles, they are memories. They are markers of identity. You're tending to the history of the house, not just the mechanics.
Right.
So the washing is done, the shelves is dusted and set aside, the barrier is gone. We are finally standing in front of the thermostat. The battery cover is accessible.
And just when you think you've won, the universe throws a final curveball.
The tool problem.
The battery cover isn't a snap fit, it has a locking mechanism. The source says it requires a tool to twist it open, specifically a small coin.
Now, if this were 1995 or even 2005, this wouldn't be a plot point. You'd reach into your pocket, pull out some shrapnel, and twist it open.
But the source calls this the modern dilemma. It explicitly notes that cards are used for most purchases these days.
The narrator is cashless, and therefore toolless. It's amazing how we've optimized our lives to be frictionless with payments, but we've accidentally removed the most versatile tool in our pockets.
A coin is a screwdriver, a scraper, a lottery scratcher, a decision maker, and now it's gone.
But wait, the source mentions a stash. A jar full of 5p coins kept upstairs.
I love the reasoning for this jar. The source says they're kept there because they are difficult to get rid of.
The 5p is annoyingly small. You can't use it in vending machines. It's just pocket clutter. But in this one moment, the 5p is the hero. It is the Cinderella of currency, the only thing that fits the slot.
So the narrator has to run upstairs, adding cardio to the list of tasks, retrieve this obsolete currency, and bring it back to the thermostat. They twist the coin, the compartment opens.
Are we done?
Not yet. The batteries are stuck.
Of course they are. Why would they just fall out?
The source notes they were difficult to remove. Batteries can swell or the contacts corrode. So now we need another tool, a small screwdriver.
The narrator has to find a screwdriver to coax the batteries out. I like that word, coax. It implies a gentle persuasion. You don't want to crack the plastic housing after coming this far.
Finally, the old batteries are out. The new batteries go in. And the display. The source says it returns to familiar information.
That phrase, familiar information, it's so comforting. The numbers are back. The system is live.
But the narrator doesn't celebrate yet. And this brings us to the final phase, the reconstruction.
Because you've essentially exploded the living room. You can't just leave the table on its side and the mugs on the drying rack.
No. You have to reverse the entropy. The mugs and glasses are dried. They go back on the display shelf. The shelf goes back on the wall. But the table, this is the detail that shows true mastery. The table goes back with a modification. The source says they positioned the table so that the repaired gate leg faced the wall.
Ah, strategic thinking.
It's protective. The glue might still be curing, or maybe they just want to minimize the risk of someone kicking that specific leg. It shows the narrator has learned from the failure. They aren't just resetting the room, they are optimizing it.
And there's one final act of cleaning. The various leaflets that were on the table originally.
Into the recycle bin.
So the room isn't just restored, it's improved. The table is fixed, the dust is gone, the heirlooms are clean, the trash is out, and the heat is on.
And the source ends with that beautiful, understated phrase, job done.
It's so quintessentially British, isn't it? Job done. Not, I have conquered the chaotic universe, just job done.
But looking back at the Cascade, it really was a conquest.
I want to zoom out for a second. We started this deep dive thinking about a thermostat, but what's the actual takeaway here for the listener? Because we all have these tasks.
I think the core insight is about the invisible dependency chain. When you look at a task, don't just see the action like change battery. Try to see the entire environment that surrounds it, the shelf, the table, the tools.
It's about recognizing that our homes are not static backdrops. They are active systems that degrade.
Right. And here's a controversial thought. The batteries dying was actually the best thing that could have happened.
A blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. Think about it. If the batteries hadn't died, that table leg would have eventually snapped off completely, possibly breaking the china on top of it. The dust would have continued to accumulate on the POW tag.
So the dead batteries were the whistleblower.
They were. They forced the narrator to confront the maintenance debt of the entire room. The inconvenience was a mechanism for preservation.
That's a great way to reframe frustration. It's not an annoyance, it's a system check.
Exactly. It forces a reset. It's painful in the moment. I mean, nobody wants to wash dishes to fix a heater, but the outcome is a healthier home.
There's also something to be said about the analog nature of it all. We live in this digital world, smart thermostats, Wi-Fi, apps, but the problems were all physical. Wood, glue, dust, gravity.
And the solution was physical. A rubber mallet and a 5p coin. It's a reminder that no matter how high-tech our lives get, we are still bound by the physical laws of the objects around us. You can't code your way out of a broken table leg.
And you can't pay for a thermostat repair with a credit card if you need a coin to open the casing.
That 5p coin is the MVP of the episode. It's a compelling argument for keeping a junk jar. You never know when the old world will be the only key to the new world.
It's funny, we spend so much time trying to declutter, but sometimes that clutter is the toolkit.
Controlled clutter, let's call it. Strategic hoarding.
So here is my challenge to you listening today, based on this narrative. Look around the room you're in right now. Find one small thing that is slightly broken or annoying. Maybe a drawer that sticks or a light bulb that flickers.
And ask yourself, if I tried to fix that right now, what is the cascade?
Exactly. What shelf is blocking it? What table do you have to move? Do you even have the right screwdriver?
And do you have the emotional bandwidth to wash the dishes that are blocking the sink that you need to wash the parts in?
It's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah.
But it's the only way to truly maintain a home.
Better to do it on your own terms than wait for the heating to fail in January.
A Cascade of Repairs.
Yeah.
It sounds like a horror movie title, but really it's just a roadmap for a Saturday morning well spent.
It is the definition of homeownership.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the hidden complexity of domestic life. From the Somerset Light Infantry to the humble wood glue, it's been a journey.
A journey worth taking.
Thanks for listening. Good luck with your to-do lists, and we'll see you next time.